So did you have specific questions
I
for me?
do, but let me just say this. This is John. I'm John Shaw, and I'm here interviewing members of the Independent Pall Bearers Association Number 9 chapter. I'm not sure what community this is. Is this Jackson Pitt or what is this?
This is Capleville, Tennessee.
Capleville. I thought it might be Capleville. So, was it called the Capleville chapter, or did it have a different name?
It was just IPB Number 9.
IPB Number 9.
Yes,
all right.
Sir.
And if you don't mind, would you tell us your name?
My name is Sandra Stepton.
Sandra.
Yes, I'm a daughter of Jesse James Smith.
Okay.
One of several.
All
and
right.
he pretty much maintained the cemetery most of my life, up until when did Daddy die? 2006.
And this chapter goes back, I think Mr. Harmon told me, to the 1890s. Is that correct?
Yes.
And so specifically my paper is about the picnics that were held, and so I want to hear something about what they were like and what went on and what kind of music and things of that sort.
Well, one thing that I remember mostly about the picnics is that it was kind of like a fundraiser for each of the chapters. I would think I'm more familiar with Number 9. My recollection is that my dad would have handbills struck, and he would put them on poles around the community to let everybody know when Number 9 picnic was coming up. My mom would immediately start to catch fish, fry fish. That's what they did. They fried fish. They made different types of sandwiches or whatever. And they had what was called a stand. Number 9 might have a stand, and my mom and my aunt, it's her mother, they would work the stand. And so there would be like aluminum tubs of ice and drinks and everything, and they sold those things. And so Mom would wash fish all night the night before, and then they took it out and it was in this big tub and it got breaded, and she dropped it into the hot oil right there in a charcoal bucket and made like buffalo fish sandwiches, those types of things. I don't remember much else being sold but fish, but I was a little kid.
So how many people would attend one of these picnics?
Oh, people would come from miles around. People who had moved away from this area, as far as my family was concerned, would try to make their vacation time to come back for Number 9 picnic.
Wow.
Yeah.
Would people from other chapters come as well?
Yes,
Okay.
and sometimes, and I keep referring to a stand. If you would just imagine those trees that are over there on the other side, each one of those was somebody's stand. And they would put boards up and make like a little tray area, a serving counter or whatever, and you'd be over in the stand preparing food for different people.
So, like, how long did these picnics run?
Sometimes they were 2 and 3 day picnics.
Yeah.
Mama didn't let us go to every day.
So, like, as far as like the music, what went on? And
well, rather than somebody hooking up an iPod or something or a DJ or whatever, the guys would play their drums. My dad did not. My dad played the snare and the bass. As a matter of fact, the bass.
And what was his name?
Jesse James Smith.
Jesse James Smith.
Right. He's buried right down there.
Wow.
So, Dad played the bass and the snare, and all of his cousins did. And most of them are.
And would people would this be like sort of a procession within the picnic grounds, like a parade? Would people dance behind the drummer?
People would dance. Look, let me tell you something. It was fun. It was fun. My grandma over there, she sat most of the time that I recall, because she was, pretty old. But she would get up out of that seat, and we called it a Tennessee two-step. I don't know what it was, but once they started, the Fife would start first. And what was that man's name? Cecil? Mr. Cecil or Cecil. But anyway, he'd make his own Fife out of like bamboo things or whatever.
Yeah.
And you could see him over there burning holes in them. And then, because some of them weren't any good, he may give them to one of the kids if he couldn't get the right sounds from it. And what was that song? He'd go like, and he'd start out, and then he'd play like a chord, and then the bass would start, boom, 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 and then the women would start gathering behind, and they march all around this place, wherever it was. It'd be like a parade. There was a lady, her name, we called her Miss Sue Black. She kept a white baseball cap on her head. She wore white slacks all the time. She would be totally white. She had a cane, and she would lead like the drum major.
Like the drum.
Yeah, and it was awesome.
It was great.
Wow. So where would these picnics take place?
Well, right here is one place.
One place they were here, but then up on Shelby Drive before you get to Malone Road, there is a section over to the right, and that was where all of the picnics were held.
And I didn't get your name, ma'am.
Elizabeth Harmon.
Elizabeth Harmon, thank you.
I am one of Jesse James Smith's daughters.
Wow.
Okay, but those and I hate to say that, those are Jacksons that live on that land now, and they their grandfather came in, how do you say it? He got Jackson Pitt. Now, if you go back where, you know, that's where our derbice was dumped and everything. So for a black man to be able to have that during those days, he was a very prosperous person. So we would have picnics on his land. And now...
Was there a name for that place?
Well, no, it was just his land. There's about 3 houses up there right now.
Okay.
But it was just Butler Jackson. That's what they.
So you talking about right there, close to where Capleville High School was?
Yes. As a matter of fact, before you get to Capleville, there's about 3 houses over to the right, and that's where it would be, behind those houses, because they own all that land over there.
And then she mentioned a place called Faulkner Grove.
Faulkner Grove is up the street, down. Wait a minute. I can't even think the name of it. I know where. If you know where there's a McDonald's on one side of Shelby Drive, and I can't think of the name of the area, but it's still there. Faulkner Grove is a picnic ground now. The family there have developed it into a picnic ground.
And it was where some of these were held in.
Those things, yes.
Because you said, I think y'all were saying before I started filming, there was another chapter up on that.
Yes, Burdett United Methodist is on Malone Road. Now, that's not the road. The Faulkner Grove is back down further. I can't think of the name of that street. Oh, I can't think of it. But anyway, they have an area there that we used to have big picnics there. And they'd switch each year.
And they're an IPB chapter also?
They're IPB. Well, the Burdett United Methodist Church is where that people I told you about with 200 members, they're in existence now. That's who we would fellowship with a lot, would be Burdett, that Burdett IPB Number 9 Pall Bearers.
Yeah. What would be the occasion for a picnic? Were these surrounding like the 4th of July or Memorial Day, Labor Day?
No, there was on their calendars every year, and it was in August, if I'm not mistaken, could have been September, but it would always be that time of the year. Just like 4th of July came around, they knew IPB Number 9 picnic. That's what they used to call it, Number 9 picnic. They knew when it was going to be, and people would come from near and far.
Did y'all ever go to other IPB picnics in Shelby County?
My father would go to Brunswick, and several others. They used to go. We never went out that far because he had to carry his drums on the back of the truck, and we were too, Mama wouldn't let us go out that far with him. But now the Burdett that I'm talking about, we always joined with them and had the picnics together, the Burdett chapter of the IPB Number 9.
What about going down into Mississippi? Did y'all ever go to picnics down into DeSoto?
We didn't. My dad probably did, but we did not.
Right.
Yes.
Can you remember the names of any of the other musicians, drummers and fife players?
Well, my dad's father, Linwood Smith, played the drums. His uncle, Jeff Smith, played the drums. His uncle, Doc Smith, played the drums. Then their children played the drums. I can go down the list. Too Tight Smith, we call him Too Tight. His name was Willie James Smith. It was Too Tight, Sammy, Jeff Davis, and then later on, a young man about my age, that's my cousin, he started playing the drums with my father. And then even my baby brother played the drums with my father. Because most of them had died out by the time they came along, and Daddy would get them to play drums with them. And he'd go to Benjaminstown. That's where he would take them to play the drums. And then later years, we had a few picnics up here on the ground under that old tree right there.
Yeah.
And we'd have a stand. We called it a stand. Daddy would build a place around where you could come up and stand and eat. And they cooked on the inside of that, and it was around that tree.
Wow.
Yeah.
Is Burdett named for a family or a place?
No, it's named for that church. It's a church called Burdett United Methodist
Well,
Church.
the reason I ask is that one of the existing fife and drum bands in Sardis, they play and do their picnics at a place called Burdett Hill.
That's probably.
It's actually, no, it's down in Sardis.
Oh, it's
and it's
Sardis.
named for the family. The Hurts and the Burdett's are kin.
But this is a United Methodist Church.
Yeah.
And I have always remembered that we always participated with them.
Yeah.
Always, because I guess the close proximity.
So what happened to the drumming and the picnics? Why did this begin to disappear, and when did it begin to disappear?
It began to disappear probably the latter part of the 70s. But even though my daddy would get people back together, they still would participate. But the older guys, they had stopped being able to play the drums. So you'd have to get somebody else to play. Then you'd have to find younger women that would stand in a place and fry fish all day or whatever. So I would think the last one we actually went to might have been middle 85. In 1985 probably was the last time we had it.
Yeah, the last film we have of a fife and drum group is from Fayette County in '81.
Yeah, I'm thinking that's when it was. But my daddy would even beat the drums at funerals, you know. He'd stand in front of the door, and if they were a member and they wanted the drums to be tapped, he'd tap them. And they used to have 3 and 4 people when it was really a lot of people in it playing the drums for a funeral procession.
Do you know where the Benjaminstown picnic was held? Because I have not been able to determine that.
You know what? I will have to ask my cousin Donald Smith. He remembered because he was with my daddy or either my baby brother, because we never went out there and we thought it was a long way. But I'll have to ask him. When I ask him,
I have a suspicion about where it might have been, because there's only one African American church on Benjaminstown Road, on the entire length of it, and there is a large flat field beside it. But that being said, that doesn't prove that's where they had them. That's just a theory that I have, having driven the length of that road to see if I could find anything that would indicate where there might have been a picnic, you know.
I will ask him, and I'll also ask my brother. And then when the Fife man died, Mr. I can't even think of his name, when he died, stopped playing, you know, they didn't do as many processions as many processions as they did when he was living. And also when Miss Sue Black died, it kind of died down too with the dancing and going. But Daddy always played the drum. They might not have marched.
Right. That's what's up.
Yeah, that's it.
So that's that's kind of what the purpose of my paper is to document this musical phenomenon.
Yes.
But the picnics were very much a part of it.
Yes.
Now, one thing I didn't get to ask, even in her book, Ms. Ellen Davies Rogers mentioned that the drumming associated with the IPB Society in Brunswick. Was there a significance within the organization to the drums and to beating the drums? Was there a reason for that, and what was it? I mean, obviously, it was used to announce that someone had died.
Yes,
but
it was used to announce that someone had died. They developed a death roll on those drums, and you knew it was a distinct sound. and it was a roll. I mean, they all could do that death roll. And I just don't, I cannot remember anything else besides that it was a death roll. And years ago, when it first started, people didn't have telephones, and then they didn't have TV or whatever. And so when you hear that roll, you know someone had died, or there was a sound for people being ill, because that was another one of their responsibilities, to take care of the dying, you know, people that have died, and also take care of people that were ill if they needed help. They did that also. So there was a distinct roll. I remember Daddy calling it the death roll, and that's what they did.
Wow.
Yeah, they sure did.
Now, were they using commercially made snare and bass drums, or were they making their own?
At that time, it was when my great grandfather was. So I'm sure that they probably made them themselves. But my father always had drums that he had purchased.
Yeah.
They had purchased.
And some of these y'all still have.
Dad, I know we still have at least one. We may have two of Daddy's drums over there, along with those swords and things like that.
The Commercial Appeal did an article on this chapter in the early 70s.
That's my dad.
And they mentioned a banner. Do y'all still have the banners?
I know we do. He has it. He took it.
Wow. That's awesome.
So that was my father and his mother. And the lady in the article was our actual undertaker.
Wow.
So that's who that was.
So I guess the last question, why has this gotten so forgotten? What has caused, nowadays, you know, you don't hear about the independent pallbearers, you don't hear much about IPB, you don't hear anything about the fife and drum bands, the picnics are no longer held. What happened that it just got so obscure?
I would actually say years, how do you say it? I guess we got modernization. I'll put it like that. Let me cut this out. Let me cut this out. Everything is easy for us now. Years ago, people didn't have insurance to pay for illness. So there was a need for us to help each other. That was one thing. Because that, if we go to our Constitution, if you go in there, you'll read about how many people need to go and take care of a woman or with having certain illnesses, or a man that had certain illness. So that was one of our purposes, helping with the sick, and also helping being able to put our dead down decent. That's another thing. Because before, as we have out here, there are slaves buried out here, and they did the best they could, but we don't have the tombstones on their graves because we didn't have the money for that thing. We had money to bury them, but we didn't have that, the tombstones. So years came, it got better, and but you can see the texture of the land. It's how it's kind of bumpy. It's not smooth. Those are probably because bodies have kind of, because they were buried in wood boxes. And so that made a difference too. Mm-hmm.
Wow. Well, this is priceless information. That's why I want to do these interviews and why I want to film them, because, I want this information to be preserved for other scholars and other students, people that maybe aren't interested in the music as much as they are in the organization itself.
Right.
And I'm interested in both.
Yeah.
But I'm certainly interested, particularly at being a musicologist, in the drums, the fife, the dances that people did to those, the events that occasioned the various drums and things, and the history of how this all came about and who some of these musicians were.
Yeah, that's it. Well, Donald Smith, he's a pastor now of a church, and he could tell you more about the Benjaminstown area and where that exactly is, because I don't know where that is.
I mean, I know where I know where Benjastown Road is.
But you don't know.
There's not a trace of the community any longer. There's
really?
nothing left, and there's nothing left of Cuba either. You know, there's a road out there called
yeah.
Cuba Millington Road or
Right.
and Cuba Woodstock Road.
Yes.
But there's not a trace of Cuba.
Oh.
You know, there was once a post office there and everything, but there's nothing really left. And the people who, you know, some of the people who probably would have known have passed away. You know, a man I know would have known was the principal of Woodstock School, R.J. Roddy, and I know that he's deceased.
Okay.
And, you know, but hopefully I'll find some people that are of the right age that they can tell me where that picnic was and how long it went on. But I think there were picnics like it in black communities all over Shelby County. Boxtown, I'm very suspicious they were going on there around Jeter School probably. Hickory Hill, the old Hickory Hill when it was a rural community. I think a lot of these areas had these picnics.
Oh yeah, it was a lot of picnics, and they had different names, but they weren't independent pallbearers. I only remember Number 9 and the Burdette being in this area, and then Dad and them would talk about Benjastown and whatever, and they'd go out there and play.
Yeah.
But I never saw that.
The only, you know, I don't know what all was on this end. Out where we were, there was the United Sons and Daughters of Zion Number 9, which was Bartlett.
Okay.
At Prosperity Church
Okay.
on Old Brownsville.
Okay.
The Social Benevolent Society 4, which was based out of Fullview Church.
Oh. Okay.
And they had a fife and drum band. Well, actually, they used the same fife and drum band as IPB 6,
Okay.
which was interesting. That was Lum Guffin's band.
Right.
And he was a member of the United Sons of Zion.
Okay.
But
well, they would go to different places, like I was telling you about the man that made his own fifes with
Yeah.
my father. They would go in Mississippi and bring him back up to do his fife. Okay, y'all, I'll see you later.
they leaving out.
But yeah, they would travel. They would request the drummers to come to different places.
Yeah.
So during the summer, then they had a lot of places to go to.
Would there ever be more than one fife and drum band at y'all's picnics? Or would y'all just have the one?
I think everybody just joined. But now
Yeah.
they would have competition. You know,
Yeah.
who could do the best roll or whatever, drum roll, deaf roll or whatever. That was the competition. You could hear it, you could see them coming, and people would start running so they could see how they were gonna perform.
Wow.
Yeah, it was interesting because we didn't have anything else to do then, and that
Yeah.
we waited for that particular time every year.
Wow.
Yeah, so it was something for us to do, and it was really
Yeah.
exciting.
One last thing. If it went on into the 80s, did anybody ever take any pictures or shoot any film footage of what was going on?
I don't remember the film. I can check with some of our cousins to see if they have it, but I do know we have a couple of pictures of my daddy with his overalls on and with him playing the drum.
Oh, that
Now,
would be
my
priceless.
sister forgot to bring one of them to you, so she might be able to scan it and send
That
it to
would be
your
awesome.
email.
That would be awesome.
Yeah, we could, and I'm sure we could go back and find something.
I am not by any stretch of the imagination a filmmaker, but I'm almost starting to believe that a documentary film about the independent pallbearers should be made.
Well, their purpose was to take care of their own, take care of the sick, and take care of widows, and
Yeah.
to also take care of their dead. And that's
Yeah.
what that was the purpose. That was the purpose.
Wow.
That was
All right.
it.
Well, thank you for your time. I
Thank
appreciate you greatly.
You're welcome. I'm sorry I messed up on
You
your-
did not mess up. This is not